Hello, welcome back to Tissue Addon. In this episode, I want to show you the breakdown on how I created this kind of abstract looking 3D surface. So I'm using geometry nodes and an add-on called PileNTiles. And this add-on has been around for many years. It was actually updated for Blender 2.8 at some point by Seawolf 3D. Okay, so the premise of this add-on is basically you can create a camera like maybe from the top view looking at your 3D scenes, and based on the camera framing, it's gonna try to create tiles, like texture tiles. So no matter how complex your objects in the scene, it's gonna take a render from the top view and then it's gonna create tiles based on it, like a seamless tile. So using that idea, I'm trying to give you an example. This is actually like super simple one. So I have a texture that's gonna cut out Suzanne surface. So it's looking like really abstract, and I don't know, it's beautiful. I think it's a little bit like kind of like Arabic pattern, or I don't know, it looks like a procedural, but it's actually there's a texture underneath that's kind of tiling, and I use that to cut out the objects. Okay, this is the tile. Yeah, these guys will actually repeat, and I created this image using geometry nodes as well. So let's go back one step. Okay, this is the setup. Okay, let me delete everything. So I started with this single object. Okay, the tile needs to be refreshed. Let me add, refresh, or remove. Let me just copy this. I have clean Blender scenes and I have these objects over here. If we look at the geometry node setup, it's basically like a scribbles. Okay, it's very simple and basic. So I started with the curved lines and I resample the curve and just reset the positions using random value that I can control using the seed. And I have noise here that's kind of mix. It's kind of like adding on top of the position, so it's a little bit more random. I can further randomize the noise if I want to. Maybe I can just pipe this in there as well. Yeah, it's totally random. And let's save this as PileTile curve. And then I convert the curve into mesh with this curve. So it's anyway, I just want to get something that's a little bit abstract, and I subdivide it. I don't know, yeah. The next thing I want to do is to use the PileNTile to turn this into like a seamless pattern if we render it from the top view. Okay, usually create camera, that's the first thing to do, and then look through the active camera. So it's gonna be from the top view. So we have these objects. Let's reduce the resolution or randomize the seed. Anyway, we have abstract looking curve. If we add this, the add-on, the PileNTile add-on will create duplicates based on this object's bounding box. So if we do like a render using cycles, the result will be tiled. Okay, this guy doesn't have any material at the moment. Let's just render it like super basic. Oh, that's too bright. Let's create a simple material, set material, pipe this outside. Okay, give some metallic and roughness. Gonna create another object, randomize the seed, rotate it, gonna duplicate it again, randomize the seed. So they are kind of overlapping, they look pretty abstract, and yeah. I will create duplicate of this object, like make it unique, and then give it a random color, red color. And for this guy, also make it unique, single objects. Maybe this is yellow. If we render, oh, before I render, I need to add this guy and this guy into the layer of PileNTiles. So what's gonna happen if we render it now? It's gonna PileNTile, so this part will seamlessly tiled in a kind of magical kind of ways. Okay, you will see. I will actually render this out like maybe 10 samples, and I'm gonna make it transparent. So render, right? So we have transparency, cool. Just wait a few seconds until we have denoising happening, and save as tile. Okay, it's gonna save as tile. So if we create a new file, let's create a torus, for example. Give it a material, shader, save this as test PileNTile. Create an image, open our PileNTile texture. We need texture coordinates. We need a mapping. Use the UV, pipe it into the tiles. Let's check it out using EV. Okay, this PileNTile texture have alpha, and in order to see the alpha channel, we need to enable enable alpha blend. Okay, so this is basically the process. Okay, we can increase the multiplications. Oops. Repeat the texture 4 times. Show the back face, but it's let's just use a simple alpha hash. Okay, so it's piling and tiling on the torus. If we use it on Suzanne, we're also gonna get alpha happening. With Suzanne, of course, there's a seam across Suzanne, so whenever there's a seam, of course, it won't tile as nicely. But we get this nice random looking texture happening. So if we want to use this with geometry nodes, of course, it's still the same process. We actually want to cut out the mesh itself. Okay, set smooth. Let me think how to do this. If we, yeah, I think we can use UV. Okay, we can use named attributes in Blender 3.4 alpha. Just use the UV, and then image texture. Grab our image, which is this tile. Then as for demonstration, I was just gonna delete the geometry. We need some kind of texture mapping nodes inside geometry nodes, but for now, just gonna scale or something. Yeah, I think I'm scaling the UV. I think I'm doing the right thing. Subdivide. I want to cut based on the face. Yeah, okay, the tiling is happening. I'm pretty sure. I will just use compare. So instead of color plug into selections, I will compare this with less than and equal. So we are deleting face based on the textures. Okay. So this is the result. I know it seems pretty random, pretty abstract looking, but I found this kind of interesting to be able to do this. So we are using PileNTile. It's taking, like a photo. It's using the camera and rendering the scene. Like you can use a complex scenes like this, and it's gonna PileNTile and then project it. In general, I mean, the idea is if we can, instead of just using texture, we can PileNTile using geometry nodes itself. Like if you have like lots of objects like this and you want to PileNTile it across the 3D scene, so it's looking like really complex and endless pattern. That's the basic idea, but we are rendering it from the top view. At some point, maybe we can use the same idea to make like displacement and with the texture and or normal as well, and then project it into 3D scenes. I haven't tested it out so far. I only just rendered it as an image and then reusing it to create abstract pattern. So simple image. You can probably like have multiple texture and then just layer it out and then reproject it into the surface, so it's looking, so you get like a completely new pattern. Like you can't see the seams, so it's gonna be seamless. And I think it's gonna be interesting and fun to try yourself. Yeah, so that's basically it. So again, you start with a random curve. I think the simpler the curve, the better. Maybe remove this. Okay, I'm gonna remove some objects. We only have, even if we have a single object, you see it's gonna pattern, like it's gonna tile. Now I create duplicates and then randomize the seed. It's kind of like a really abstract graffiti. It's very cool looking. You can create depth. Back to the camera. Select all the objects and then add it and then refresh. It's gonna tiles. Yeah, we just get the green, but maybe this guy needs to be more random. Yeah, let's wait a few seconds until the noise happens and then image save as. And then we go back to the test file, save as. We're gonna load the new texture. Okay. yeah, the cutout is already happening, and we can then just solidify